Hey, welcome to Broken World Entertainment, and this is the review for episode 3 of The Rings of Power. We'll probably fly through some of this, because not a hell of a lot happens. So, we start off with Dom Lemon Elf. I still have no idea what his name is, the Black Elf. At the Orcs prison, basically, where they have them digging trenches. So, one of the orcs leans into him, he's semi-unconscious, and says, "For Adar," or Adar, I believe he says Adar, which is the name of the episode, by the way. We immediately then jump to Galadriel and Halbrand on the boat that they got picked up by at the end of the last episode. She wakes up in the hold of the ship. Halbrand comes in. She's now in some sort of blue cloak type thing. Gives her some food. She doesn't really want to eat the food. He says it's not poisoned if that's what you think, and she starts eating it, and he says, well, for humans anyway. So they're brought up deck and they meet the captain of the ship, who tells them they're going home. So we are in fact going to Numenor. Problem with that is, as the fans know, the diehard fans, the people who read the books, that Galadriel was never in Numenor. So there's one of the big changes from the books. While they're there, they're being led. Galadriel's being obnoxious as usual. Halbrand sees a forge and gets a bit of a hard-on for it. So then we meet the Queen, whose name they don't say her name in this episode, but I believe the Queen's name is Miriam or Muriel or something on that lines. But we meet her, and you very quickly find out from Galadriel's interaction with her that Galadriel is just a full-on bitch. She really is like just a full-on Karen. She's like, I want to speak to the manager type stuff. So she wants to leave. She's asked what her name is, and she just goes Galadriel and then just names off all this ton of crap. You know, leader of the northern armies and all this. And Halbrand's just like, yeah, I'm just Halbrand. So the Queen doesn't want to let them leave, so she tells them they're going to be staying in Numenor for 3 days. Galadriel notices that the captain dude has her brother's knife. Halbrand thanks the captain for bringing them there, hugs him, but it was a ploy. He took the knife off and gave it back to Galadriel, and he's basically hiding it behind his arm, where everyone behind him, including the guards, could see. So it's basically, he was hiding it so we, the audience, couldn't see, but everyone else that was behind him should have seen it. Then we get introduced to the captain's son, who's training on a ship with a bunch of people. They land on a beach. Not in the ships, they took little boats off the ships, obviously, to the beach, where we meet his sister, who arrives with a horse. But to get this right, when they get on to dry land, they all turn and look back to the sea. And their captain stands out front and he says, and I quote, "The sea is always right." It's as riveting dialogue as the difference between a stone and a ship. So we meet the sister, who you may think he's going over to greet her, but he in fact goes past her and greets the horse. Then we get the Queen and the Captain, who are having a conversation. She's questioning why he brought Galadriel to Numenor, and she's now, I can't remember what his name is, but the Queen says, "What is the meaning of your name?" And he says it has a few meanings, and he says the first meaning is one who loves the stars. But she says it has another meaning, doesn't it? And he's, well, and the other meaning is friend of elves. And she's like, well, are you friend of elves? So then we jump from that to the Southlands, where Don Lemonelf realizes that the orcs hate the sun. They're digging in what do you call it, the trench, and the sun comes out, and he notices that the orcs, who are very white, not kind of, so he's in chains, so we have a black man in chains and the orcs are white. Quite interesting, that, isn't it? So they're told to cut down the tree. There's a big tree and they say the tree's in the way, and they're like, cut it down, and they're refusing to cut down the tree. And by the way, all of his elf mates from the first episode who were back in the village, somehow they're in this prison. They don't explain how they are. They don't explain how they got caught. If they're all there from the village where they came from, where Theo and stuff is, should that not mean the village is destroyed? But they never mention how these guys got here. But they're refusing to cut down the tree, and they said, another brilliant, fantastic piece of dialogue, that the tree has been there longer before any of them, and it's earned its place in the lands. One of the orcs starts laughing and says, well done, elf, you've earned your company. Water. Gives them water. They start drinking the water, and well, Don Lemonelf's buddy, the one who went to the bar with him, well, waited outside really for him, but was there, as he's taking a mouthful, the orc swings his sword, and you think he's just been beheaded or something. Nope, he's just got this little cut in his neck, but he's dead. That kills him. And then, of course, the elf is, Don Lemonelf says he'll cut down the tree, and their plan was to get up to look out of the trench to see where the hell they are. So he climbs up to cut down the tree and has a quick look where he is, and like, they're just in this vast empty area with smoke everywhere, and it's like, wonder how no one has noticed this before. But he gets really sad that he has to cut down this tree, and he puts his hand against it. He says something in Elfish to the bloody tree. Then we go back to Numenor, and we have Galadriel, who's jumping around the town like a goddamn ninja. So she ends up down with the captain. She's trying to sneak onto a boat to get out of there. They go to Middle Earth. The captain catches her. They have a bit of a conversation, and she literally does it like, do you know who I am? She's literally saying, he speaks to me as if he does not know who I am and all this shit. You're just like, fuck me, you're an obnoxious bitch. But then he says something about, he has information up in an area he's from, and it's about a X amount time of a ride there. And she's like, did you say ride? And then we get a cringy scene of them on horses. And they do this really weird slow motion of Galadriel on the horse. With it's meant to be a smile. It looks like she's in pain, squeezing out a fart. Oh, the choice for camera work in that scene was very strange. Why they made it slow mo as well was even weirder. So then we jump to Halbrand, and he's at the forge, and he's trying to convince the guy to let him work in the forge. And he's going on and on and on. And the guy turns around and says, yeah, that's great, but problem is, you need this guild crest. And he says a little brooch type thing on his chest that he needs. So Halbrand goes to, I suppose it's like a bar where he's eating, but there's these 4 or 5 guys behind him kind of calling him out. And one of them comes and sits in front of him. He's like saying to him, like, what are you going to take next? You know, you're a runner into our land. You know, you're going to take our homes and our land and our this and our that. And then Halbrand says, don't forget your women. So the guy comes over and sits down, and he notices that he has one of them crests on him. The guy's buddies come around, sit around him, and he straight away he's like, oh look, where's me manners? I'm in your town as a visitor. The next round is on me. Where you got money? Don't know. They don't explain that one either. So he gets them all pissed. He's having a laugh with them, but it's all a ploy for him to nick the crest off the guy, which he does. Thinks he's got away scot-free. The guys come around the corner and said, like, do you really think we wouldn't notice that? They give him an uppercut, and he's like pleading with them not to, and then he just loses it and kicks the living shit out of all of them. And I'm pretty sure he murdered 3 of them. But he gets arrested. The guards come around because one of them got away. Obviously told the guards, and they come around and arrest him. There we go to Galadriel and the captain, and they're at this hall, great hall thing, looking at a load of scrolls. And there's a painting, a terrible looking painting as well. Elrond is actually on the painting. But this is where they discover the map of Mordor, that the symbol of Sauron is in fact the map of Mordor. But they bring out a little piece of paper that's been in this place for years, if not decades, maybe even centuries. And I shit you not, it has and details Sauron's plan. They've had this thing the whole time. No one bothered to read it. Oh my Jesus Christ. So now they know that Sauron has a plan, and that the mark is in fact Mordor. Then we jump to the Harfoots, who are planning their move, and we find out that they are psychopathic little bastards. So you have Lenny Henry's Harfoot jumping around. It looks like they're having a bit of a festival, and he's singing Nobody Goes Off Trail, and then the rest of them sing back to him, and Nobody Walks Alone. Alright, keep that in mind. So the Harfoot stuff is about them moving. We find out, of course, that her Nori's foot, I keep calling her Elnor, but that's what it says her name is, but they keep calling her Nori, so we'll say her name then Nori. Her dad, his foot is still screwed, so they're worried that he won't be able to go. Nori goes to try and nick a book that has the constellations in it. Almost gets caught. Then they're having a what do you call it? A gathering before they leave to go on this journey or their migration. So where did they say they're going to? The Grove, whatever that is. So they started reading the names of people who they've lost. How did they lose them? Well, let's go back to the little song, shall we? Never go off trail. And no one walks alone. Problem with that is, if you fall behind by any little bit, they fucking leave you. They leave you for dead. It's like, yeah, good luck and thanks. So they start reading out from the book all the names of the people who died. And one of them, they start laughing because he died from bees. And he's like, oh, he was always in Egypt anyway. It's fucking stupid. So the wizard finds the pages that Nori took with the constellation, and he accidentally burns it. It gets stuck in a fire. He panics and he falls into one of their tents or something, and he gets seen. They all see him then. So they're saying Nori broke the rules, and their laws say that if you break the rules, you can't travel with them. See what I mean? Fucking psychos. You'll never walk alone type thing, except they absolutely will leave you on your own. But they make the exception saying, look, she's young, blah blah blah. So they will travel with them, except they'll be at the very back of what they call the caravan. Then we find we're back with the captain, who's having like a drink or whatever conversation anyway with both his son and his daughter. You find out he was promoted by the Queen for bringing Gladriel to the bloody place. And the daughter gets accepted into some college. He has an argument with the son that he wants to go to basically Middle Earth, where he tells him the same thing that he says he told his older brother. We haven't met his older brother, at least I don't think we have. That there's nothing out there for them. And he gets pissed off and leaves. Then Gladriel goes and meets Halbrand in the jail, and she finds out that he was the king of his land. And she's like, well, come with me to fight in Middle Earth and stuff. And he's like, well, you don't have an army. She goes, that's about to be sorted. And then we go to the Queen, who walks up into her room and just starts talking to herself and says, Father, the elf is here or has arrived or some shit. And then we jump back to Don Lemon Elf and the orcs, and this is where they decide to have a fight, where we get that scene from the trailer where he's jumping on the chains. So all the elves start fighting the orcs because they want to escape by waiting till the sun is at its highest and its strongest, and they'll try and get the orcs fucked with that. So they start fighting them. He does that little jump up on the chain, cuts the board, like a big board that drops a tent type thing down on top of all of them. As him and all the rest of them are kind of wrapping around each other to put the chains into a particular shape for them to try and cut easier. After when one of the orcs says, release the warg. and we get one absolutely horrendous CGI dog or something. The best way to describe it is it's the weasel from the Suicide Squad. So Don Lemon Elf starts doing the fucking Matrix. He's jumping all over the place. Every other elf is getting torn to shreds by this thing. It jumps for him, he ducks, it goes through trees, the roots of trees. He wraps his chains around. There's only him and his elf commander from his village, or the village, whatever, left. He's fighting off orcs. Then he's trying to cut his chains while Don Lemon Elf is trying to hold back the dog. He finally gets the chain off him. He goes running up. The dog chases him, or the warg. He throws the spear. Don Lemon Elf throws the spear up and kills the warg. He goes to start running. Don Lemon Elf jumps up onto the edge, sees him, and your man turns back around. He's got an arrow stuck in him, and then another arrow hits him. He's dead. He's fucked. And then they drag Don Lemon Elf back down into the trench, and they're about to kill him, about to behead him, and they said, no, bring him. And then they start chanting Adar again. And then we get that scene in the trailer that's meant to make you believe, oh, is this Sauron? You get the glove coming through, the Sauron looking glove, which, by the way, the Night Kings had them bloody gloves as well. So they're just trying to hint to you. So you don't see Adar properly. He's blurry. The same way the end of the first or second episode, the guy in the boat you couldn't really see. Same with this. You can't really see it, but you can make out that he's an elf. He is an elf. And that's where it ends. So once again, literally nothing happens. We're 3 hours in out of 8, and nothing has happened. The dialogue is boring as fuck. The Queen, by the way, Jesus Christ, so she tried and chew up scenery went with her acting. Oh my god. And she takes like 2 hours to say a sentence. It's like she's really trying to make it dramatic, and she's yes, and how dare you come to me right now. And that's literally the way she's talking. You're like, Jesus. So nothing else really happens, you know. You find out Gladriel is still a fuckhead. You find out the Harfoots are psychopathic bastards who will just let you die, even though they're like, oh no, we'll take them with us. And this is the thing, when Henry Henry's reading the book, where he's the book of remembrance basically, he's like, if you ever fall behind, we shall always carry you. And you're thinking, oh, he's in our hearts and thoughts, and you're like, Jesus. So absolutely nothing happens. You're meeting people, more characters that are just useless. The orcs stuff was just very on the nose. Like, oh look, the orcs are super white and they have the black man in chains. Gladriel's just an idiot. And this show sucks. Put that in the sea, because apparently the sea is always right. And with that, I'll leave it there for this one. So cheers. I'll catch you in the next one.